let's get into the story with Chippy this morning on breakfast. Let's find my notes. I think it's that one, isn't it, Chewy? It is. So on breakfast this morning, Mr. Hipkins, it's interesting how he's calling him Mr. Hipkins now. What do you think, Chewy, about the Americans still calling their officials by their highest title? Like, they still call Trump President Trump. They still call like Mike Huckabee governor, because like 10 years ago he was a governor.
Yeah, I think that's weird.
Like, what's his name? The Giuliani. They still call him Mr. Mayor because he was the mayor. They keep their titles. You think it's an odd thing?
Mr. Four Seasons.
Yeah.
That was the highest level that Giuliani ever achieved.
So Mr. Hipkins.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It's weird.
Mr. Hipkins was on breakfast this morning and kind of started off by that typical thing you get at the end of the year. Well, what do you think the government has done well? Oh, fuck me, I wasn't going to play this, but he kind of spins it and goes to talk about some realities as well. So let's have a listen to what Mr. Hipkins thinks that they've done well.
I mean, I made the call that we're not going to oppose the government on everything that they're doing just because it's them that's doing it. So in some of the areas around infrastructure, for example, trying to get a longer-term pipeline of infrastructure work that actually builds on work that we were doing in government, it's sensible stuff to do. We're not going to criticise them for doing that. So, there are always going to be things that we agree with. We're not going to disagree with them just for the sake of it. But, ultimately, I think the overall scorecard on this government's a pretty mixed one. And I think most Kiwis would...
That's pretty polite. I think it's we're talking about Mongrel last night, Chippy. We know you guys were watching.
This is exactly what we're talking about.
Pretty mixed.
You can go, look, there's some stuff that we agree with, the infrastructure pipeline, yada, yada, yada. But overall, their scorecard is fucking abysmal. Look at everything else.
This is what we're talking about last night.
I've had to go deep to find this one thing to say positive about them. Like putting the fines up on disabled parking. Good stuff.
Oh, did you hear today? Wellingtonians, the price of your public transport might be going up by 70%. Thanks, Jesus National. Christ. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a mixed report. I mean, Chippy's a nice guy and he uses nice, polite words. But what happens often, and it happens in America more so, is often the media will grade the Conservative or grade the right party on a curve. Like, just think about how they treat what Trump says and does versus how they treat what Biden says and does. And I don't know if it's so much of a habit here in New Zealand, but I can't imagine Luxon standing there and going, it's a bit mixed. In fact, we're going to show you a clip where he calls them economic vandals. He calls Labour economic vandals. So they don't pull punches. So I'm just like, Chippy, you could be the Prime Minister if you wanted to, according to the chat.
I'll lead you all into a glorious future. Well, I want
to be in charge of the Doge department for you. Can I do that? Can that be me? Anyway, sorry, interrupted. Chippy, a little bit more Mongrel, please.
Feel like the change that they're getting from this government isn't necessarily...
I mean, actually, it's a good point he's making. We're being quite pedantic about one word.
I think most Kiwis would feel like the change that they're getting from this government isn't necessarily the change they thought they were going to get when they voted at the last election.
So what is it that you think that the government haven't delivered on or have yet to deliver on?
God. Do we have enough time, Daniel? Do you have 4 hours? Can I take the next 3 slots?
Mixed message.
Well, if you take the main issue, which all New Zealanders I think are concerned about, which is the cost of living in the broader economy, they've taken what is a challenging time for the New Zealand economy and made it a lot worse. Their spending cuts have actually made the economic downturn.
Seeing we criticised, we can do the other. Strong point.
There's one other
said
thing.
Well.
I would helpful criticism, constructive criticism here. This would have been a perfect opportunity for Chippy to just mention us. Like, I don't have time to explain it all to you. I'm leader of the opposition. But if you want to catch up on what the government has done badly, you can see these guys, Woke Man Pat and Woke Barker, on big woke hearing news. They're on YouTube. They're great.
We'll send them a T-shirt. Remember we asked Julian.
Let's just bombard Chippy with merch. You don't have to wear a suit jacket, bro. Just these.
I've just had a new idea. What about something we do? Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm tangenting from this. We'll go back to it. What about like sponsor an MP? People can come and buy merch that we then send to the MP on their behalf. That's a great idea. Sponsor it. Don't do it, because I'm not set up for that, but it's something to think about. Sponsor an MP. What about we could do, we could re-bring back Christopher Luxon, not a businessman, just a board member, and you guys could sponsor an MP. Oh, that's a beautiful idea. I like that.
Nicola's going to need a new wardrobe just for T-shirts.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't message me and say, I've paid for that one. Can you send it to? Because I won't. All right. Don't do that. It's an idea. We're just brainstorming here, people.
New Zealand economy and made it a lot worse. Their spending cuts have actually made the economic downturn deeper than it needed to be. There's about 12,000 fewer people working in building and construction today than there were this time last year. And a big part of that is that the government have turned down the dial on all of the government's big infrastructure and spending projects. So they've stopped state house building. They paused all of the school infrastructure upgrades like school rebuilds and so on. The list could go on. This is a government that came in and just said, if the last government were doing it, we're just going to stop it, regardless of whether we think it was a good idea or not. And I think, we've got to get past that as a political cycle. That shouldn't be the way politics works.
From the government's own list of highlights, though, I noted that they talked about...
Government's list of highlights. Output, key markers, KPIs, annual quarter reports, our markers are.
The inflation's down, tax cuts, family booster helping households financially, ram raids are down, police foot patrols are up, more money for Farmac. Your thoughts on those?
Well, I mean, if you look at the issues around inflation, the Reserve Bank have brought inflation down as they were projected to do before the election with their higher interest rates. In terms of the cost of living, any benefit that families got from tax cuts has been more than eroded by the extra costs that they're facing through things like rates increases, which this government have made worse.
Pharmacy bills, no more free buses. And we'll just remind you of these things, because what happens is people will forget these things before the next election. All the families that got the family boost, whatever it was, package, many of them with young kids are like, well, we're going to be spending more than that on their public transport to and from school now, so we're actually worse off. Very, very common story.
How's your grocery bills going?
Yeah.
Have they gone down? No.
Have we seen that downward pressure on your rent yet? Or is it increasing? I know in Dunedin rent's increasing. House prices due to go up 7% next year. That means mortgages will be bigger. That means rents will be going up. We continue.
Through things like insurance increases and other government costs, which have been going up because of the government's budget decisions. So, the people who are benefiting from this government's decisions are not everyday New Zealand households. There are some New Zealanders who are doing very, very well out of this government. If you're, Philip Morris, you're doing incredibly well out of them. You've got about $200 and something million in tax cuts.
Strong.
I don't think that's helping everyday, ordinary New Zealand households get ahead.
Strong finish. He stuck the landing, as they say, Chewy. I'm gonna convert you to sports analogies before the end of the year. They stuck the landing. Thoughts, Chewy?
Yes. Well, I think we interrupted him all the way through with our thoughts, but this both sides centrism. Just you can't do it, mate. You just can't. Like they never ever gave an inch when the roles were reversed.
Yeah.
So why do you feel that you need to be seen as reasonable? No, you can be reasonable and pissed off, because there's so much to be reasonably pissed off about.
Yeah.
Like we are seeing the wholesale vandalism of our institutions, our infrastructure. The cost of living has not changed. Like the family boost that they're talking about is so admin heavy. I think there'll be a bunch of people out there that'll just go, oh, fuck it, it's not worth it, which is exactly what the government want. If you don't apply for it, you don't get it. So, oh look, our costs have gone down.
Yeah,
and that's all it is. And I need the leader of our largest opposition party to get right up in their shit. Just make their day miserable. Don't give them an inch, Chippy.
Well, here's the thing, right? And look, that was a really good, solid response from Chippy. We are being a bit finicky over one word, mixed results, because actually after what he said after that was all real good, real strong. But the thing is, if he didn't want to get up in their grill, is that what you said? I feel a bit uncomfortable saying that. If they didn't want to get up in their grill, there is one person who will. Two people, actually. One of them's David Seymour, and the other one is Winston Peters. We'll get to that clip next, but this, first of all, is Chippy talking about the interaction between Luxon and Seymour, who's running the country, the stuff we covered up on last night.
Also, next year, Mr. Hipkins, we will see a change in Deputy Prime Minister. I mean, we've seen Winston Peters sit alongside Christopher Luxon, but come May next year, it will be David Seymour. What's your thoughts on the dynamics there for those two?
Yeah.
I don't think it's ultimately
Incestuous, perhaps? No.
going to make all that much difference.
No, that was some fan fiction I was reading this afternoon.
For those two.
I don't think it's ultimately going to make all that much difference. I mean, Winston Peters and David Seymour have been running circles around Christopher Luxon for the first year of government. I think that will probably continue right the way through to the election. David Seymour's even boasting about the fact that he has a disproportionate amount of influence given the size of his party vote at the last election. And I think that's really a reflection of the somewhat weak leadership that New Zealanders have seen from Christopher Luxon. Ultimately, he's letting David Seymour and Winston Peters call the shots. National got far more votes than that, but you wouldn't know that in the way they're behaving.
There you go.
Mr. Hipkins, as always.
Strong finish. So let's go straight to this last clip. Yesterday, of course, we had old, the keeper of the crypt. We had old mate Seymour. Sorry, it's burping there. Coming out and basically saying, I do much better than I should do, hinting that he's running Luxon. Well, Winston Peters today has said that he's struggling. He then tries to walk it back a bit, but even those words coming out of his mouth, that Luxon is struggling. Is it interesting? You wonder why. Why are these two minor party leaders on two separate days? If they're not purposefully having a jab, then what they're doing is resulting in that anyway.
Winston Peters offering up an honest review of the fifth Prime Minister he's been in coalition with.
He's more of a detail than most Prime Ministers. That's a fact.
Don't celebrate clearing that hurdle too quickly.
The other side of the coin is, of course, he is struggling in a job.
Is Winston Peters right when he says that you're struggling in the job?
I'm enjoying this job and we're working very well together.
Wasn't
No,
the
when I say
question.
struggling, not in a bad way, but when you're so...
He's struggling in a job, but not in a bad way. You know, like how all those good ways that you struggle in a job.
Very well together.
No, when I say struggling, not in a bad way, but when you're so new to politics, you're occupying the top job, it is foreseeable to take a little while to bed yourself in.
So he's not qualified to do the job. So he doesn't have, so what he's saying is that bald man on screen right now does not have the skill set to do this job. He's not struggling in a bad way. He's just not qualified to do the job. He doesn't have the skills to do the job. He doesn't have the nous to do the job. So he's struggling. That's what Winston Peters just said. He just said this guy is not good enough to do the job. Chewy, Winston's been watching. Your famous line, he is not good at this. He's struggling.
Let's see if I could do it, Winston. He's not very good at this. And then down a whiskey or a brandy or something. Smoke a cigar,
and have a cigar,
ride off on a
cigar
horse.
at the same time. Let's just watch the last. I've only got about 20 seconds because it's quite an amusing. There's quite an amusing wrap up. Gives Gina Lynch a bit of credit for this. It's pretty funny what Luxon doesn't say it on purpose, but the link she makes between Winston Peters and what Luxon does say.
Oh, I love Winston.
One can only imagine.
Hang on, I thought you didn't know who Winston
I'm
was.
hurting. I'm laughing.
You
but
didn't know
I'm
who Winston
sad.
was? I don't know the man.
Bed yourself in.
Oh, I love Winston.
One can only imagine how the Prime Minister would really like to respond.
Yeah, so it's really the dinosaur that's caused the problems here. I'd put the dinosaur into time out. That's what I'd do.
So,
Amazing.
Credit to Gina Lynch for putting those two things together. It's the dinosaur that's the problem here. I think the dinosaur needs to go in time to time out. Lovely finish. Credit to Gina Lynch. But listen, the actual point is, is, oh man, I don't want to say Winston Peters is senile. I don't know that at all. But if he's not aware, if he thinks he's saying something that's not derogatory and bad, if he's not aware of that, then something's happened. So it either means something's happened and he's not quite aware of what his words are going to do, or he's doing it for a reason. And if he's doing it for a reason and Seymour's doing it for a reason, what the hell's going on?
Oh, just sorry, I'm just trying to find something real quick. And you can tell how quick it is, but is that it? No, it's not it. No. I'm looking for the there it is. Got it.
This is great broadcasting.
I know, Pat, but how can we be mean to this? Fucking, look at this. This is in black and white times, and he still looks like he's 40. This is me searching up young Winston Peters.
Yeah, he's probably 14 there.
This is probably taken on the first camera imported into New Zealand on a sailboat, and he was there waiting for it.
Yeah, should we do a flash side by side? Ready? 1, 2. 1, 2.
Jesus.
1.
He's so old.
Isn't the nickname Methuselah? Anyway, Chewy, let's stop mocking the man and just have a look at the idea of Mr. Luxon getting kind of the shit taken out of him for a couple of days by his coalition partners. And even remember Seymour yesterday kind of laughing as he's walking away going, I think I've caused enough trouble for today. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time.
This is a man. Remember Luxon's fucking tough guy routine when he was talking about beneficiaries earlier in the year? Look, I'm not going to apologize for being tough, and I'm the big tough man, and I am telling people how it's going to be because I am so fucking tough. But then the two people closest to him in the job, his two deputies, are tearing strips off him in the same week. And he's trying to laugh it off like it's nothing. Like it's weak.
Yeah. Week's the right thing. I mean, just think about yourself in a workspace. If you had someone who was your superior, you had to work with every day, and if you made a public statement that embarrassed them, like it just doesn't feel like it doesn't. Yeah, weak. I feel like there's no respect there, and they can basically do and say what they want. But then again, they have been all year anyway.
Yeah, you like in that sort of setting. If someone at your level or the next level down started shit talking you, you'd take them aside and you'd read them the riot act.
Yeah,
like I don't see that. Like he's perfectly happy to be Mr. Tough Guy for beneficiaries and kids that don't go to school because he doesn't need to front those people. He does need to front Winston and Seymour, and he doesn't seem to be confident enough to do it because this is not his game.